But then when I got it, I was just like, yes, okay, like it does work.
Was it the technology first, or did you have kind of that entrepreneurial spirit to begin with?
So I think in order to really kind of innovate, you also have to just not be afraid of what you're working with.
Welcome back to another episode of the BYU Tech Transfer Podcast. Today we have Jonathan Wagstaff with us. He is the founder of Martlet 3D. Jonathan, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and about the company?
Sure. So I went to BYU, so I love BYU and I'm glad to be here. I did the electrical engineering program here with many of the great professors here. After that, I ended up going to KAUST in Saudi Arabia and continued doing electrical engineering there. I was in an optoelectronics lab, and I also did a ton of stuff in the clean room. So I was like wearing the bunny suit and stuff like that. I loved doing that when I was at BYU, and I continued being in a clean room. I don't know, I was just happy building things.
It's a very cool environment to be in. Yeah, I worked at a company that did extrusions, and so they had a clean room that I would have to go into from time to time. So very cool environment.
Yeah, a lot of my colleagues hated it, but I'm just thinking like, this is like high tech, cool stuff. Like I'd rather be down here than behind a computer.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, very cool. And tell us about Martlet 3D. What are you doing there? What are you hoping to achieve with that company?
Yeah, sure. So Martlet 3D is a software for 3D printing. So it replaces the slicer, is typically what you use. And this is for FDM or FFF, fused filament fabrication 3D printers. And these are the ones that you see the spool of filament. Right. It's the glorified hot glue gun attached to a robot arm.
But what most people are going to think of when they think 3D printing.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that people don't think of the, you've got your resin printers and some of the sintered metal printers. But yeah, this is the consumer level kind that most people think of. And it is a slicing paradigm that allows you to create your parts much faster and better because you're able to avoid all of the support material that you typically have to do with normal 3D printing.
Yeah, this is very cool. And for anybody who's done any level of 3D printing with one of these devices, removing those supports can be a huge headache, and it increases the amount of time that it needs to print, and then the waste material, right? You pull off all those supports, and most people, not everybody, but most people are just going to throw that away, right? Because they don't want to go through the hassle of recycling it. So very cool innovation. And part of the reason that I wanted to have you on today is because you are working through kind of the startup paradigm that most of our startup founders coming out of BYU Tech Transfer are dealing with, right? Where you have really cool technology, right? This is technology that you created yourself, but really cool technology. And now you're trying to find, the refinement of that technology, the market fit, finding users, how do I scale, how do I generate funds, especially early on, all those types of things. So very cool. I think you have lots of valuable insights for our listeners. But for you, what was your aha moment where you were like, okay, like I've worked in a lab, I know what that environment's like, I've done some research, I would like to start my own company. What was kind of the inspiration for that? Was it the technology first, or did you have kind of that entrepreneurial spirit to begin with?
Well, I mean, it was a lot of things. Right. So yeah, entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, at BYU, I took the entrepreneurship lecture series class, and I mean, put that in the back of my head. I mean, I've been listening to entrepreneurship podcasts and reading books for, I don't know, maybe a decade now because of that class. And then basically I was doing a different 3D printing side project with my printer. My colleague, he had an optical device or piece, and I'd literally just gotten back from printing something with a 3D printer for my Raspberry Pi. Looked like a giant toenail. My colleague, he's got this thing held up, looks like a toenail too. I mean, so I went, oh, did you just print that? And he was like all offended. He's like, no, this is thousands of dollars. Like I didn't just 3D print that. Right. So I spent a lot of time on that project, working hard to replicate that. So I learned really kind of from the ground up how a 3D printer works, and I learned all of the G code, which is all the instructions that it sends to the 3D printer.
And that's kind of the machine's language, right? Is the G code?
Yes. And it's the same that is used for CNC machining. Right. They use more or less the same language. Yeah. And yeah, basically because I'd gone through all the math to get all of these really tricky internal geometries for the optical device, I had been hammering through that for quite a while. And basically the idea, or I guess the biggest aha moment came when I was watching someone print something with these great overhangs, looked it up, found out that it was not generalized at all.
Okay.
It was, they're able to make some of these overhangs, and it was more like they had almost hard-coded all of the G code.
Okay.
They didn't start with a model and then
Right. They didn't go through a traditional slicer with a model. They basically had the code for it directly.
Yes.
Okay.
So it was very mathematical. I mean, one of them, for example, they made a sphere. So very easy geometrical equation for that. And I saw it. So then for like several days, of course, I'm thinking, how do I generalize this? How do I generalize this?
How could this be applied across all different pieces that you want to print?
Yeah, because like basically they have a lot of cool solutions where they've made some really non-planar things. They've done some of these overhangs. They have some cool internal geometries. They were doing kind of similar things to what I was doing at the time. And the thought that I really had, I'm thinking, okay, that's just not fast enough. No, only people like me are going to go through that headache of making things that through all of that almost hard-coded, but not quite, geometric processes. So I had a couple of hypotheses, basically.
Yeah.
So my thought, looking and scrutinizing the small little spheres that they made with these overhangs right at the bottom, and I guess top too, was that it was about the spacing. Typically, if you have something that's sliced, you're going to see an equal z increment every single time. But this one actually didn't. It had an equal increment along the surface the entire way. So with normal slicing, you get an equal increment and then an arbitrary run.
Right. And it basically just slices it in chunks, equal chunks, all the way through the z-axis of the print, right?
Yeah. So with the sphere, it was kind of like something called adaptive layer slicing, I think is what the term. And it was also very symmetrical.
Right.
So that makes that easy. So I shelved that away in my brain, and then later when I came back to the U.S., I was thinking, okay, I still have these hypotheses I really want to test because it's one thing to maybe be able to make something cool like that optical device I was talking about with a 3D printer, but there's a very, very small customer base for that.
Very niche.
Yes. But if I could crack an arbitrary generalized version of it, then it would be something that would solve problems for everyone.
Yeah.
So basically, the two of the hypotheses are things that I really wanted to test were, is it the equal spacing along the surface that does it? And then can I come up with an algorithm that is able to do it asymmetrically and for large faces?
Right.
So sometimes a lot of things you often actually assume, oh, it looks complicated. Actually having the faces of the surface of the object you're trying to do with really tiny triangles, for example, actually hides some of the errors or issues.
Right.
So I ended up making a little thing to go past those two things, kind of make it not symmetrical, and can I get crazy overhangs, like spacing it that way. So I made this little thing with an asymmetry.
Okay. When we say little thing, you mean like an object that you're going to test your printing?
Normally I would have brought it, but I keep on sitting on them. I put them in my back pocket and then pull it out and go, oops.
Yeah. No worries.
But yeah, on there it's got a 45-degree overhang on just one side, and then it is able to continue up, let it kind of catch up, and then it does a full 90-degree overhang covering the top of it. So
which is incredible, right? Like if you've ever done anything with 3D printing, having a 45 and then a 90-degree overhang without any supports, right? Like that is game-changing paradigm for the 3D printing industry.
Yeah, well, it is really cool because I mean, like I'm watching it and it took me quite a few times tweaking parameters until I got it. But then when I got it, I was just like, yes, okay, like it does work. Those hypotheses worked. It wasn't for a round object. It was for something square with big faces, and then
something that has more complex geometry than just a sphere.
Yeah. So like and I mean I made sure to not do something organic that it wouldn't be as obvious, because sometimes when you just have those crisp edges, you can pick out all the little differences and stuff.
Right. Very cool. Yeah. So love the technology, love the progress that you've had so far, but maybe shifting gears into the entrepreneurship side. So you mentioned some podcasts. Do you have any entrepreneurs that you would recommend that you go to consistently? Like I go to Alex Hormozy all the time, right? I know he's got kind of a abrasive style for some people, but even though I don't agree with everything that he says, I like that he challenges some of my own preconceived notions about entrepreneurship and, what's hard and consistency and those types of things. Who are some of your go-to, entrepreneurships that you listen to?
I feel like I skip around a lot. So
Okay.
I used to listen to How I Built This a lot.
Very nice.
Some of the stories in there I thought were awesome. I mean, like Sarah Blakely's story was phenomenal. And I think at the end of the day, after listening to a lot of them, one of the questions that I'm asking myself a lot is, what's the common thread? What makes these people successful?
Yeah.
And that's what I look for in entrepreneurs now. And I was reading this entrepreneur's book, and in the first couple little bits, I realized, okay, he's nailed it. That's exactly what it
There
is.
it is.
Yeah. So the entrepreneur is Peter Thiel.
Yes.
And he's very much of a contrarian. So I mean, he's brave enough to have jarring kind of opinions, and the question that he poses at the beginning is, what's something that you believe in that most other people do not? And that puts everyone on edge. That puts you where you're in a position of going,
well, immediately defensive.
yes,
right?
yes,
Because,
yes.
You already know everybody else doesn't agree with you on this.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
Well, and I think also, I mean, you were kind of hinting like, okay, yeah, the ex-entrepreneur, I don't agree with everything, but like,
Right.
and that's how we kind of, I feel like we always have to do that a little bit. But that's what I think is one of the things that makes entrepreneurial role models special, is they're willing to break the mold a little bit. They're willing to not fit in.
Yes, and they're almost always unique in their own kind of way, but share some common attributes that I think drives them all towards success. So it's I don't know. It's not for everybody to listen to the podcast and read the books. Like, I understand that's not everybody's thing, but I highly recommend it just because it challenges your own beliefs and kind of expands your thinking in a way that is productive, if in no other way, in challenging yourself, right? Putting yourself on the defensive of, why do I actually believe these things? Why do I think I should do these things? And either changing or doubling down and saying, no, I do believe this is my particular path forward.
Well, it's also a little bit kind of empowering, like hearing that you have to tell yourself a lot of stories to get yourself to keep on going.
Yes.
And I feel like when it's kind of a lonely thing, when you've picked some things that other people don't do. Like, I mean, for example, some of the almost everyone doing 3D printing to try and do overhangs without supports, they're trying to reinvent the printer to do it.
Right.
And I mean, I knew from just working with my cheapo Ender 3 printer that I could do really good things with it.
Right. Without changing the hardware at all.
Yeah. I mean, tiny tweak. I mean, I put a different nozzle in it, but
but not changing the number of degrees of freedom
nothing.
all those types of things.
Yeah. So a lot of people assume that gravity has a ton to do with it, but not really. Actually, there's even printers that people have entirely upside down.
Right.
And they print things that are indistinguishable from ones that are just vertical.
Yeah.
So on that scale with plastic, where everything's pretty sticky and stuff like that, it doesn't behave quite that way. So.
Yeah, which I would say is probably a contrarian approach to it, right? Where you're saying gravity isn't the limiting factor, right? It's really how this is printing in the algorithm that controls it. So not a hardware, it's a software problem.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, I think people tend to get a little bit fixated on the hardware sometimes. I mean, like, I experienced that at least, like, working in a clean room. I mean, you have all these just mind-boggling expensive equipment. And honestly, a lot of the innovation comes from being willing to use it unconventionally.
Yeah.
Like, Suji Nakamura was an awesome innovator. He did the blue LED.
Okay, yes, which was a very challenging thing to do, the blue LED. Yeah, we could spend the whole podcast talking about that, but
but and listening to his story, I mean, and the fact that he came from a technician type background and was welded and changed and adapted the machinery. He wasn't the machinery wasn't untouchable for him, or it wasn't
it was accessible to him, right?
Exactly.
He understood that there were limitations, but there was still a lot of wiggle room within those limitations in the equipment itself.
Yeah. So I mean, like I've pulled apart tons of printers too and stuff. So I know like you can't hurt them too bad.
Right.
Throwing airbrushes on there, pens and other things like that. So I think in order to really kind of innovate, you also have to just not be afraid of what you're working with.
Yes. Yeah. Not be afraid of it and not be limited by what others might tell you is possible, right? Because that's another thing that you will get people to tell you, well, like that idea is wrong, right? Based off of this, and this, right? Like we've done the research, we've already done these things. There's a reason people are focusing on the hardware or whatever it might be.
Yep.
And almost in a non-logical way, you almost have to throw that out the door, right? And say, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I have to rely on these things that I've seen, right? And the experiences, and especially from, your perspective of saying, I know the hardware, I know what it can do, and I'm just going to test some of these ideas. Like you said, you had your 2 hypotheses. I'm going to test these, and if they work, then we will continue to pursue it. And if they don't, then okay, great, I was wrong, and we'll move on to something else. But it's that initial willingness to test things that maybe on the surface aren't making the most logical sense that I think a lot of entrepreneurs have.
But you also have to be there in you have to know what other people have done too. I mean, if you
don't want to just do things that everybody else has already tried and failed at, right?
Yes.
That you're just wasting your own time.
Yeah, I mean, like I was reading about the Wright brothers and what they did. I mean, because I'm just looking at them trying to figure out, like, okay, you've got 2 high school dropouts.
Right.
How are they able to do something so great that all these scholars and other inventors were not able to do at the time? And I mean, finding out more that, okay, Wilbur was really smart. So was Orville, but they had read up on all the papers.
Yes.
They knew all of the scholarship at the time. They had the equations and the constants that people were claiming were the ones to be used for different geometries of the wings and how to set it up. So they weren't ignorant, and they were very, very embedded in it.
They didn't start from square one, right? Like they took everything that was there and then rejected some of the things that weren't working and tried things differently.
But it was only because of what they had observed.
Yes.
Like the reason he had those convictions was because they had tried those constants. They crashed multiple times.
Yes.
So that's what I just thought was so awesome, seeing them just so bravely do the scientific method, go, okay, here's what we have. We're going to make the best hypothesis we can based off of what there is, and then continue forward with that. And then go, oh, that doesn't work. Let's go home and rework. Oh, we'll build wind tunnels. We'll go through, regenerate these constants and test and test and test.
Yeah, no, which is fantastic. And I think for any entrepreneur, there is what would you call it? Maybe a tipping point between when do I start acting, like when do I stop researching and start acting? And I think everybody has a different kind of internal criteria. What is your feeling for when should you start prioritizing action over researching from your own experience?
I feel like it's almost where you are. Like when I was at university, I'd say I was much more, I feel like I was tended to do a lot more reading ahead of time and maybe fussing in that way. But then either you have kind of other priorities that kind of get you to go, okay, you know what, you need to start making money, you need to start aligning with these other research priorities, or you need to be somewhere where you can do all those tests, or I mean, you need to be in the right place to do that. You need to be around other people who are testing. I mean,
sometimes it's limited by the resources you have access to, right? Where it's like I can't physically do these tests yet, so I'm just going to continue to research, right? Or vice versa. I'm not quite ready with the research, but I find myself in an environment where I can do a lot of these tests, so we're going to start doing some of these tests, right? Just to see where we're at.
Yeah. Well, so like. For the most part, I'd say go for the test real quick. Just
as
try it
as you
out.
reasonably can.
Yes. I mean, lean startup kind of thing. Try it, see if something works. Can you validate a hypothesis and move on if you can?
Yeah. No, that's great. I love that. And with your kind of journey so far in entrepreneurship, what would you say is the most unexpected part of the journey so far, right? I think everybody knows there's going to be some pain and time, but from your perspective, what do you
Quantity
think?
of pain? No, just kidding. The unexpected part, I would say, I was surprised to find some more papers. So one of the things that I try and make sure to continue to do is to keep on reading papers, to keep on looking at YouTube videos, keep on trying to make sure that I'm very informed on those things. And I wish that I had been more informed. I'm thinking like, oh, that paper came out 6 months ago. If I'd 3 months earlier seen it or that kind of thing, I would have had another idea and been able to do much better. So I think many entrepreneurs, because it's a very visionary type thing, you tend to have the thought of I'm going to do my own thing. And I don't know, for example, I was talking to someone and he was networking, and he's telling me I've fixed up 4 businesses. I buy failing businesses and fix them up. So I asked him, okay, what's the common thread? Right. And he's like, he sat there for a while and he's just going, you know what, I think the thing is that oftentimes smart people, I think they're smart at everything. Right. And I don't know, at least doing a master's and then doing a lot of other graduate research, I realized, like, I mean, you go so deep into one vein of research, it's hard for me to understand how so many people just aren't incredibly humbled by that. Just realizing, like, there's so much that you don't know.
Just the vast amount of knowledge out there in other areas that you don't have an expertise, that you just have no clue.
Yeah, so I've got to say, I mean, the world just keeps on surprising me again and again, even in adjacent things. And it's something to just always keep your eyes open and try and make connections all across so you can innovate.
Yeah, and I would say we definitely see that with a lot of our founders who either come from a technical background or they come from a business background. I would say unintentionally, but quite often we do see that they undervalue the other part of the business, right? So if you're technical, you undervalue the business. If you're business, you undervalue the technical. And really, it's about being current and up to date in both and understanding your own limitations, right? Understanding that, hey, maybe I'm going to be the technical lead for this particular business, right? And that means maybe I will have some good business insights, maybe not, but at the very least, and you know, some people can do everything, right? And when you're an entrepreneur, you end up doing everything regardless, so you have to learn as much as you can. But if you do have that opportunity to bring in somebody as a mentor, collaborator, potentially a co-founder, right, if the fit is right, seriously think about that, because the value that they give with depth in another vertical that you maybe know a little bit about, but not as much as them, is going to be transformational in the effect that your business as a whole is going to have with whatever it is that you're selling, whether it be a technical solution or a service solution or whatever it might be.
Yeah. No, I definitely want to get a co-founder, but I want to make my product attractive enough for them so I can convince them to leave their day job or
and the timing of all that is incredibly difficult. Yeah, but I think you're making some good progress. It's been very cool. So is there any piece of advice that you would give to a young entrepreneur, and specifically, I think for this conversation, to a technical founder, right? Because I went to graduate school, I got a master's in mechanical engineering, so a little bit different. I think coming from that background, entrepreneurship can seem very scary, and a lot of times it's not why you went into engineering to begin with. I know I didn't, right? I went to engineering because I like things, right? I like fixing things and thinking of things and creating my own projects and ideas. But what would your advice be to maybe a technical founder who is interested in entrepreneurship but isn't quite ready to pull the trigger yet on that particular stage of their life?
I would say listen to a lot of founder stories, because a common thread that I think with many of the founders is how maybe unqualified they are. And how they just still go ahead with it anyways. I mean, you see people who are coming from an adjacent field or out of field to tackle another problem, and they're able to have fresh eyes or be able to move forward. And I think a lot of that comes from, I listen to lots of podcasts of different founders. If you're at BYU, come here and do the entrepreneurship lecture series or something like that. And that was kind of what sparked it, where I'm realizing, okay, these guys are not, yes, they've become experts in something, but many of the things that they started off on, they weren't experts at.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I think that's a really valuable insight and eye-opening, that you don't have to be an expert to start, right? That comes with time. And those people that you look up to, they started where you're at, right? And so hearing those stories over and over again, I think can really help kind of build up your own courage to take the leap if it's something that you're interested in, right? Entrepreneurship, I will say from my own experience, isn't for everyone, right? You alluded to it, there's a lot of pain associated with it and a lot of uncertainty and a lot of late nights working on something that you wonder, does anybody even care that I am working on this thing? Is anybody ever going to care, right? And so again, it's not for everybody, but I think your advice there is spot on, right? Look to those who have done it before and their stories and how they ended up where they're at.
But it does pay off when you start seeing, not customers for me, but yet, but when you can delight a customer, when you can get them to go, wow, that I feel like is much more meaningful than the approval from a boss for a project or something like that. But when you can see that from a customer, like you're
when you
doing
fixed their
well.
problem, right? Like that's just such a satisfying feeling of like, oh, like you were struggling with this like I thought you were, and the thing that I came up with, right, either as part of a team or solo, like that solved your problem. Like incredibly satisfying, hard to replicate in any other way, for sure.
Yeah, that's something that I suppose I didn't expect so much jumping in. It's like, now I have two boxes in the back of my brain now. People that understand the pain of 3D printing and people that don't. They're very different people now.
They are, and the conversation is completely different.
Entirely
with them, right?
different.
Because if they understand your pain, it's like instant click, right? It's like, I understand exactly. Well, that's why I wanted to bring you on, right? Because I've done a lot of 3D printing, and I'm like, that would be fantastic if I didn't have to worry about supports. But again, if you don't know what that is, if you don't experience that pain, completely different box.
And also it's also a little bit of a weird box too. It's not 3D printing is not a mainstream thing yet.
Right.
It
is growing quite
yes.
quickly, but
you've got a lot of weird people like me, or like it's like almost 90% men.
Right now it is.
Yes. And I really hope that I'm able to move it more to the early mainstream kind of adopters and people that more women, more children.
Right. Just more people generally.
Exactly.
Right? Yes. Yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. Okay, one last question for you. Martlet 3D, where does that name come from?
Okay.
If you're okay answering
Absolutely.
that question.
No, I have to. This is my brand. Martlet is it's an archaic word for a swallow.
Okay.
And it's also a name for a mythical bird that's a swallow without feet. Okay. So it's they put it on coats of arms as a symbol of perseverance because it would never touch the ground.
Right. Constantly flying.
Yes. So like the idea is, I'm thinking, okay, that's a great symbol for supportless printer. It's going on good symbol for me as an entrepreneur, hopefully. And then also swallows are nature's best 3D printers. They've got those. You're as a homeowner, you might be like, oh, darn it, they put some darn little nests up there under the eaves or something like that. But I love them. I think they're awesome. Yeah. And they're also kind of cool because they've speciated because of human dwellings. So the barn swallows, they're different species because of buildings. Yeah,
well, and that's a very cool inspiration because, like, thinking of their nests, right? It's not like they have these supports that support the nest, but they have some pretty significant overhangs if you've ever seen them. No, that's
they make the best overhangs with the worst material. It's like dirt.
Yes, seriously.
And that's a lot of necessarily they have to make sure that every increment is the same width because every blob they put on is that same amount. They're not going, okay, up Z this amount across
right.
all the way there. So
it's a more intuitive way to do that.
Yes. So
very cool. No, I love that inspiration. Okay, if somebody wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way to reach out to you?
So you can email me at jonathan@martlet3d.com. So
and we'll throw that into the description as well, so people can just grab that, copy it, and send it over. And then if anybody's struggling to get a hold of Jonathan, they're always welcome to reach out to me. I can send over your contact information if you're okay with that, and we'll get you connected.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for coming in, and excited to see where Martlet ends up in the next couple of years.
Great to come in. Thank you very much.